Hey everyone, it's Chaz, and I am tired of answering questions about SUMIF, COUNTIF, and AVERAGEIF. See, I'm in a data analytics class, and a lot of people watching this video are probably in the same class with me, but a lot of you ask me the same questions about SUMIF, COUNTIF, AVERAGEIF, and based on those questions, I could see that these functions are really confusing. So I'm going to tell you, for your own sanity, stop using them. I'm going to show you a better way. So first of all, let me just go over the COUNTIF, SUMIF, and AVERAGEIF functions and why I have a problem with them. So in this little diagram here, I've color-coded different things. Basically, what all of these functions come down to is that you need to calculate a certain range, you need to check a certain range, and then you need to check it for a condition. So COUNTIF is pretty straightforward. The range that you calculate is the same as the range that you check. And actually, SUMIF and AVERAGEIF do the same thing as long as the range that you're calculating and the range that you're checking are both the same range, like the same column, where that range will always come first, and then the thing that you're checking for always comes second. So, okay, that's fine. But what happens when all of a sudden you need to check a different column from the one that you're calculating? All of a sudden, the range that you calculate is not the first one anymore in your function. Look at SUMIF over here. If you were calculating and checking the same column, then you would just put it first. But if you need to check a different column, all of a sudden the calculation is not in front. Just like in COUNTIF, where the green rectangle is the first one, now it's the last one. It moved. Just by adding a third argument, the range that you calculate all of a sudden moves from the first part of the function to the last part of the function. And to me, that's really confusing. Plus, it's just not intuitive to me. Like, if I want to find a sum, shouldn't I tell Excel first what I want the sum of? Like, which column am I adding up? Well, no, you tell it what to check, and then at the end, you tell it what to add. Like, it's called SUMIF, not if sum. I should tell Excel what I want the sum of, and then tell it the if conditions. To me, that's confusing. So let me show you a better way. So here, instead of COUNTIF, I have COUNTIFS with an S at the end. And the same for the others. Instead of SUMIF, I have SUMIFS with an S. And instead of AVERAGEIF, I have AVERAGEIFS. And first of all, you could see that I'm a lot more organized. So the format of the COUNTIF and COUNTIFS functions are basically the same. But when it comes to SUMIF and AVERAGEIF versus SUMIFS and AVERAGEIFS, I'm a lot more organized now because everything is in an order that I would expect it to be. I'm finding the sum if there is a condition. So what am I finding the sum of? The green rectangle. What is my condition, or what am I checking for? Well, I'm checking in the pink rectangle, and I'm checking for the word John. And then just going back to COUNTIF and COUNTIFS, even though the layout is exactly the same when there's only one condition, COUNTIFS comes in handy when there's more than one condition, because then all you have to do is list another range, and then another comma, and then another condition, another thing to check for. COUNTIF doesn't even allow you to do that. With COUNTIF, you are forced to do one range, one condition. Another nice thing about SUMIFS versus SUMIF is that if I really wanted to, I could actually check the same range that I'm calculating. All I would have to do is, instead of having different ranges in the green rectangle and the pink rectangle, I can just put the same range in both of them. I mean, maybe that's a little weird. So maybe if you only want to check the same column that you're calculating, maybe in that case, I would say, yeah, go ahead and use SUMIF. But as soon as you need to check a different column, just get rid of SUMIF and go straight to SUMIFS. SUMIFS, COUNTIFs, and AVERAGEIFs can do everything that SUMIF, COUNTIF, and AVERAGEIF can do, and more. So to me, if I have 6 functions I got to try to memorize, but 3 of them can do everything that the other 3 can do, why am I going to try to learn 6 functions? I can just learn 3. So that's my argument against SUMIF, COUNTIF, and AVERAGEIF. Let me show you some examples on how to actually use SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, and AVERAGEIFs. So I'm not going to use any data from the data analytics class that we're in because the TAs don't really like that. So instead, I'm using some sample data. I may have used this data in the past. It's the Olympic hockey data from the website COUNTIFS. But I have some data about men's and women's hockey teams. They are from Canada and the USA. And, name, height, weight, hometown, position they play, how old they are, some basic information. And I want to answer these 3 questions right here. So first one, on average, are Canadian women taller than American women? So based on that question, it looks like I need to find the average height of women from Canada and the average height of women from the USA or America, and then compare them. So you would think maybe, oh, well, I know about average if. I can just use average if. No, you can't. Because first of all, average if is really confusing, and I don't want to answer questions about it anymore. But more importantly, there are 2 conditions here, not 1. You're calculating the average of the height column, which I know there's a height right here in feet and inches in column G, but it'll actually be easier if we use column N, which is just the height in inches. And that makes sense because, how do you add a 5 with an apostrophe and then a 10? It's much easier to just add a 70. But you're finding the average of this column, but it's based on 2 different columns. We need Canada and women. So average if can't even do this. This is why I like average ifs. So let's see how it works. Just to stay organized, I'm going to calculate Canada first and then USA. So here's Canada, and I'm going to go equals average ifs with an S, parentheses, and then I need my range, which will be the height column over here, column N. I'm just going to select the entire column. The average ifs function knows to ignore words and only calculate the cells that contain numerical values. And then I need to give it some conditions. And the nice thing about average ifs is that I can give it multiple conditions. The other nice thing is that the range that I want to calculate, the range that I want to find the average of, always comes first. So I don't have to do something weird where as soon as I add the 3rd argument, all of a sudden the first argument becomes the 3rd argument, and that is too confusing. Average ifs does not do that. With average ifs, I tell it what I want to calculate, what I want to find the average of, and then it never moves. It always stays in the first spot. So what I want to calculate is the average of column N. And then the first criteria is Canada. Since I need Canadian women, I'll just do Canadian first. So I find out if someone is Canadian using column C. So the range is going to be column C. And in column C, what am I looking for? The word Canada. So in quotation marks, I will type Canada. But this is not the only condition that I'm checking for. I need to check Canadian and women because there are men in this table as well. So my second criteria is column B. Let's select that. And what am I checking for in column B? I'm checking for the word women. So in quotation marks, I will type women and I will spell it right. And that's it. So I'm looking for the average in column N, but I want to check first if column C contains Canada, and I want to check if column B contains women. And it actually doesn't matter which one I do first. I'll show you that in just a moment. So anyway, let me hit enter. And I've got 67.6 roughly inches for the average height of Canadian women. And when I said before that it doesn't matter what order I put them in, so in other words, if I take column C, Canada, and I just delete it, and instead I move it to the back like this, you get the same answer. So let's do the average height again, but this time for American women. So this time I need women in column B, but I need not Canada, but USA in column C. So let's try it. Equals average ifs, parentheses, and the range I'm checking is the height. I need to find the average height, that's column N, and then I need to check my criteria. So first of all, it's going to be women in column B. So choose column B. What am I looking for in column B? The word women, comma, and then I'm also checking USA in column C. So let's select column C, comma, USA. And when I do that, press enter, I get 66.2 approximately. So the question was, on average, are Canadian women taller than American women? And the answer is yes. Next question, on average, which men's team has the heavier players? So in this case, we're talking about the men's team from Canada, and we're comparing it to the men's team from the USA. So again, we need an average, and again, we have more than one condition. And again, I'm trying not to be confused, so I'm going to use AVERAGEIFS with an S. So let's try to stay organized. I'm going to go Canada again and then USA. So this will be the Canadian men, and this time it's the weight that I want to find the average of. So let's just go equals. Since it's asking which team is heavier on average, that's the weight, column F. Select column F, and then I'm checking the men's teams, and I'm checking men's teams from Canada and from the USA. So first, let's get the men's team from Canada. So that means I need to check column B, and I'm checking for the word men, comma, men. And then in column C, I need the word Canada. So like column C, comma, and the word Canada. Close the parentheses, press enter, and I see that the average is 193.16. Okay, now let's check the men's team from the USA. Equals AVERAGEIFS with an S. Once again, the range is the weight. We're checking average weight. So column F, comma, and I need to check the men from the USA. So I find men in column B, select column B, and looking for the word men, and then check column C. What am I looking for in column C? USA. Press enter, and I get exactly 191, and the question asks which men's team has the heavier players on average. So we say that it is the men's team from Canada. And in this last question, we've been working with AVERAGEIFS. Let's switch it up. So this one asks how many men are 30 years of age or older, and also how many women. So this time we need a count. And actually, you can't use COUNTIF in this situation because COUNTIF only allows you to check the same column that you're counting. And in this case, I'm not counting the same column that I'm checking. I'm counting the age column. I want to know how many of these are greater than 30, but I'm not checking this column. I'm checking this one. I'm checking column B because I need to know if that person is a man or a woman. So COUNTIF doesn't even work in this case. I must use COUNTIFs. So let's do it. To stay organized, I'm going to have the men in this one and then the women here. So how many men are age 30 or older? Let's go equals COUNTIFs. And I want to make sure this column is 30 or more. So we could go equals and then go greater than or equal to 30. You can also just do greater than 29 since we know that everything in column L is a whole number. There are no decimals, but I'll just use greater than or equal to 30. And then we're also checking if this column, column B, contains the word men, quotation marks, and the word men. And when I do this, I see that there are a total of 46 men that are age 30 or older. All right, so let's check the women. Let's go equals COUNTIFs with an S, parentheses. I'm checking the age column. What am I checking for? Greater than 29 or greater than or equal to 30. Greater than, equal to 30. Close the quotation marks. And I am also checking if column B contains the word women. Press enter, and I get a total of 27. So to answer the question, there are 46 men age 30 or older and 27 women age 30 or older. But anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.